Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, 6-Path Weeb. Today, we're diving into an exciting fanfic discussion. What if Naruko was born again with full memory of her past life? Part 2. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to the original creators and copyright holders. Let's get started. Ino Yamanaka was a proud member of the famous Yamanaka clan, known far and wide for their unique abilities to sense and communicate thoughts with one another. Her father, Inoiki, had been part of the legendary Ino Shikacho trio, a team whose incredible teamwork had earned them fame during the Third Great Shinobi War. The Yamanaka clan were also exceptional at helping others understand one another, making them beloved as mediators and peacemakers throughout the villages. As a young girl, Ino had a little crush on Sasuke Uchiha, the quiet and mysterious boy everyone whispered about as the last Uchiha. She admired his elegance and confidence, though she often forgot to notice the people right in front of her. That all changed the day she saw Naruko carried through the village gates, her bright blonde hair messy, eyes full of determination, even with a scrape on her chest. Naruko had been training hard, and though it seemed she had been hurt, she wasn't the kind to give up. In that moment, Ino realized she had spent far too much time admiring someone distant, when courage and kindness could be found in people she had overlooked. For 3 long years, while Naruko trained under the wise and playful Jiraiya, Ino dedicated herself to becoming stronger too. She studied medical ninjutsu alongside Sakura under the guidance of Tsunade-sama. Ino learned to understand the body and mind, to heal quickly and carefully, and to create herbal medicines from the flowers her family grew. Her precise hands and keen mind allowed her to handle even delicate plants with care, and her growing chakra control made her nimble and graceful in every move she made. When Naruko finally returned to the village, Ino had heard tales of her remarkable new skills. But nothing prepared her for seeing dozens of clones lined up perfectly on a plank of wood, moving in unison, or for the moment Naruko split a waterfall cleanly in half with a swirl of her wind chakra. Ino's eyes widened in awe. Naruko wasn't just strong, she had grown into someone truly extraordinary, a bright and inspiring force. Ino trained even harder after seeing Naruko's abilities, determined to keep up with her friend and comrade. She worked on her clan's secret techniques, practiced medical ninjutsu, and refined her skills with a tanto, both for fighting and for carefully preparing herbs. The lessons were tough, but Ino loved every bit of it, knowing that each day she grew closer to the capable ninja she wanted to become. On one particularly challenging mission, tragedy struck. Their teacher, Asuma-sensei, who had guided them since they were 12, was lost. The grief weighed heavily on Ino, and she knew her friends felt the same. It was during this moment of loss that Naruko appeared, calm, strong, and resolute, ready to face challenges that seemed impossible. Ino watched in amazement as Naruko used her mastery of the Futon Rasen Shuriken with precision and care. Naruko's courage, her ability to protect her friends and bring light to even the darkest moments, inspired Ino to become not just stronger, but kinder, braver, and more determined than ever. Through many trials, adventures, and even moments of heartbreak, Ino realized that the world of ninjas wasn't just about strength or glory, it was about caring for others, growing together, and finding hope in unexpected places. And as she looked at Naruko, standing tall, her golden hair shining in the sunlight, Ino knew one thing for sure: there was no limit to what friends who believe in each other could accomplish. Together, they trained, healed, laughed, and faced each challenge with courage, creating bonds stronger than any magic or jutsu. And Ino, for the first time in her life, felt the thrill of being part of something truly extraordinary, a story of friendship, bravery, and endless possibility. Beside her, Sakura and Shizune had done everything they could to help Tsunade-sama, trying to heal her or infuse chakra to bring her out of the coma. But it was all for naught, she didn't even twitch. From what Naruko and the others had heard, the daimyo had come to Konoha to select a new Hokage, unsure if Tsunade would ever wake, especially after the news about the Raikage's proposal. For now, however, the daimyo had done nothing, and why remained a mystery known only to a select few. "Is there really nothing we can do?" Ino asked, her voice soft, tinged with helplessness. Shizune knelt beside her master, sighing gently. No. She used every bit of her strength to give to Katsuyu and save the villagers. Normally, a little chakra infusion would help her recover faster, but the strain was simply too much for her body. She explained what they had already known but needed to hear out loud. Sakura closed her eyes and grasped one of Tsunade's hands, kneeling beside her sensei and Hokage. A shiver ran through her as she felt how cold and still her hand was. How could everything we love just disappear in an instant? She whispered, though she didn't expect an answer. It was more a question to herself. So it's true. The three of them turned their heads in unison at the flap of the tent opening. A figure stepped in. It was Naruko, but she looked different. Her black hakama swayed as she walked, paired with wara-ji sandals, white tabi, and a black, open shirt. A sword hung at her waist, and around her neck glimmered the necklace from Tsunade, somehow mended after being crushed, infused with chakra. Her hair had grown longer, streaked with bright red highlights, and she now carried a mature, confident presence reminiscent of the Yondaime Hokage. The changes left Sakura, Ino, and Shizune wide-eyed. "And Naruko?" Shizune whispered, almost in disbelief. "Shizune-chan," Naruko greeted with a warm smile, stepping fully into the tent. "I'll explain everything about my changes later. Right now, we need to handle this situation first." Sakura blinked, stunned at how much her teammate had changed. The brightness of Naruko's blue eyes seemed to radiate calm and reassurance. "So, everything worked?" she asked softly. "And you're okay?" Naruko nodded. "Yeah. Just a few little aches here and there," she said with a grin before noticing Ino in the room. "Ino-chan, glad to see you weren't too badly hurt." Ino just stared at her, eyes wide, as though she couldn't believe Naruko was really standing there. "How are you awake so quickly?" Ino asked, still recovering from shock. "I have a fast healing ability," Naruko explained simply. "It's a trait of the Uzumaki clan. And with the Kyuubi's power, well, cuts and injuries heal within minutes, sometimes even seconds." "Wait." Sakura's voice trembled. Uzumaki clan?" Naruko winced, not wanting to get into it yet. "I'll explain later. It's a complicated story. One I'm still figuring out myself." Sakura nodded, understanding the hint of pain behind Naruko's words. "Fine. But later, we talk about everything," she said firmly. Naruko offered a small smile in reply. She then knelt by Tsunade, sighing. "I know everything that's happened while I was out. Is there truly nothing we can do?" Shizune's eyes were soft but sad. "Tsunade-sama gave all her chakra to Katsuyu to save the villagers. She has nothing left and fell into a coma. And don't forget, this is her true age. She sometimes forgets it herself." Naruko chuckled softly. "I call her Ba-chan," she said. "She's the closest thing to a grandmother I've ever had. I don't want her to overestimate herself and hurt herself like this. She may seem young, but she's wise and strong, more than anyone knows." The three women shared a quiet, sad smile. Sometimes they forgot that Naruko, an orphan, had only ever had a handful of family figures in her life: Sandaime, Iruka, Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. "So you don't call her that to annoy her?" Ino asked, eyebrows raised. Naruko laughed. "Not really. Although, she does hit me with her paperweights sometimes. That's a little annoying." She turned her gaze back to Tsunade. "It feels strange seeing her so vulnerable." Shizune looked curious. "Where is Kakashi-san?" "He's informing the daimyo that I'm awake," Naruko replied. "I think they're waiting because, well, it has something to do with my heritage." Shizune's eyes widened. "You know then?" "I do," Naruko said gently. "You, Ba-chan, Uro-sensei, and Kakashi knew. Maybe a few others. I'm not angry. I've always wanted to know about my parents, yes, but maybe it was better this way. Back then, I was just a kid, immature, reckless. Now, I can understand why they kept it from me." Shizune sighed, relieved. "Do you know about your mother?" Naruko's eyes widened, her hands tightening around her sword. "Why, you know who she is?" she asked, voice soft. Sakura and Ino exchanged looks, puzzled but intrigued. "I didn't know her personally," Shizune said gently. "All I can give you is her name. If you want to learn more, Kakashi-san would be the best person to speak to." Naruko nodded. "I'll ask him," she said firmly, determination sparking in her eyes. Knowing her mother existed, even if she might be gone, brought a sense of relief amidst the uncertainty. She then turned to Sakura. "Sakura-chan, do you know where Sai is?" Sakura nodded cautiously. "I think he's with Konan. He doesn't fully trust her yet, though she did help you." Naruko smiled faintly. "I understand. Thanks." She stood, taking a deep breath as she looked toward the village, at the cratered land and the tents filled with villagers and shinobi. She closed her eyes and drew in natural energy from the surroundings, blending it with her own chakra. "Senenmoto," she called softly, her eyes glowing with the golden, toad-like power of a sage. She sensed Sai and Konan nearby, ready to reunite with them and help rebuild what had been lost. With a determined grin, Naruko deactivated her sage mode, planted her foot, and vanished from sight, ready to face whatever came next. Naruko's medical tent. Outside. As Naruko stepped softly outside her tent, she noticed a curious scene. Konan and Sai stood silently, staring at each other with calm, unreadable expressions, the very faces they had worn for years, as if it were second nature. Tilting her head in curiosity, Naruko walked closer. "What's happening here?" she asked. Both Shinobi and Kunoichi turned toward her. Konan exhaled softly, while Sai blinked, slightly startled. "Naruko. You're awake?" Sai's voice was quiet, his head tilting with surprise. "Yes," Naruko replied with a gentle smile. "About 20 minutes ago, actually. I've been looking for you." She turned to Konan. "Has anything gone wrong?" Konan shook her head. "No, except someone tried to see you, but I told them no one was allowed just yet." She gave Naruko a warm smile. "Have you been feeling all right after the change?" Naruko nodded, touching her head lightly. "I'm doing fine. Though there are still some things I need to figure out." She glanced at Sai, whose expression was still puzzled by what had shifted in her. "Sai, I need to ask about Danzo." The moment she spoke his name, Konan stiffened slightly, though Sai's face remained impassive. "I can't talk about him," Sai said simply. "Why not?" Naruko asked, curious. "A seal," Sai replied, sticking out his tongue to reveal a small black mark at its center. "Danzo put this on me when I first joined Root. If I try to speak about him, it will activate and paralyze me completely." "I see," Naruko frowned thoughtfully. "Then just this. Would Danzo do anything to become Hokage, even hurt others to achieve it?" Sai hesitated, his eyes flicking briefly away, then back. He gave a subtle nod, careful not to trigger the seal. Naruko closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Konan," she said, a confident grin spreading across her face, "it's time to show everyone the truth about Danzo." For the first time in years, Konan smiled widely, and Sai raised an eyebrow, curious. "Naruko." A familiar voice called. Kakashi dropped lightly beside her. "The daimyo is about to begin the meeting. He wants you there immediately. Fukasaku-sama is also waiting, he has important information to share." "Understood," Naruko replied, nodding. "Come on, Konan. And Sai, thank you for being a true teammate." She smiled warmly. In a blink, Naruko, Konan, and Kakashi had disappeared, leaving Sai alone. "He's changed," Sai murmured, shaking his head as he walked away. Daimyo's makeshift headquarters. Council chamber. "We plan to continue working with other nations to ensure peace after the Akatsuki threat," Homura stated clearly to the council and the fire daimyo. "After everything Konoha has endured, Hino Kuni will help rebuild. But first, we need to consider the budget," one councillor said, nodding. "And who will be the next Hokage?" Danzo asked. A hush fell over the room. The fire daimyo spoke up. "Couldn't we wait for Tsunade to awaken? Perhaps it will all resolve itself." "My lord, Tsunade is still unconscious. We must plan for the village's future, even in her absence," Koharu said firmly. "I would choose Jiraiya," the daimyo mused, "but he is gone." Shikaku quickly interjected. "I nominate Kakashi Hatake." Murmurs filled the room. "He is respected and capable, but very young." "Minato was even younger," Shikaku countered calmly. "And he learned from the fourth Hokage." The fire daimyo nodded thoughtfully, impressed. "A fine choice indeed." Before Danzo could speak, the doors opened. Naruko entered, looking refreshed and confident, accompanied by Kakashi and a blue-haired woman no one recognized. Fukasaku rested on her shoulder, and she held a large scroll carefully. "This entire invasion is your responsibility, Danzo," Naruko said firmly, her voice carrying through the chamber. "If it weren't for you, Nagato would never have been forced down his dark path. You threatened Konan, attacked Nagato and Yahiko. All for your own ambition. That is not the way of a leader." Gasps filled the room. Even the council elders stirred nervously. Homura and Koharu slammed their hands on the table. "Namikaze Naruko. You are not permitted here," they shouted. The fire daimyo raised a calm hand. "I asked her to come. That is why the meeting took so long. She has proved herself by protecting the village from Akatsuki and carries knowledge many of you have overlooked." Naruko smiled at the daimyo and glanced at the elders. "I assume no one here remembers what you ordered years ago?" she asked. The three elders exchanged uneasy glances. And what do you think we did? Homura replied cautiously. Itachi Uchiha told me everything, Naruko said simply. The room went silent, all eyes now on her. What? Itachi Uchiha? The daimyo gasped. Isn't he a missing nin? Yes, Naruko nodded, but I met him recently on a mission. He shared the truth with me. Flashback. Naruko was currently leaping from tree to tree, her bright orange scarf fluttering in the wind, when she heard a faint rustle behind her. Landing silently on a branch, she peered around, and froze. A pair of deep, red eyes met hers. Finally, either Sasuke or Itachi, she whispered to herself. The figure stepped forward, revealing himself to be Itachi. Come out, Naruko Uzumaki, he said calmly. You know, that whole mysterious and serious look suits you well, Naruko replied with a cheeky grin, stepping from behind the tree as if she weren't standing in front of one of the most famous ninjas in the village. Itachi let out a soft, amused chuckle. I take it Jiraiya-sama has spoken to you. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. Before she and the other search teams had gone looking for Sasuke, Jiraiya had pulled her aside and told her about the Uchiha clan's tragic past. She let out a small sigh. I have to say, my respect for you went up a lot when I heard your story. Itachi's eyes widened slightly. Why do you say that? Naruko stepped away from the tree and looked him squarely in the eyes. Because carrying that burden, doing something so hard for the village, even when it hurt you deeply, that takes courage. I honestly don't think I could ever do that. I'd find another way, even if it was tough. Itachi's expression softened. I understand. From my perspective, the village benefits, even if it comes at a great cost. Naruko tilted her head and gave a small, teasing smirk. It would help if those old council members weren't in charge, they're as stubborn as ever. Itachi let out a quiet, bitter chuckle. On to other matters, what would you do if Sasuke ever acted against the village? Naruko took a deep breath. Honestly, if he threatened anyone I care about, I'd do my best to stop him. I don't want to hurt him, but I won't let anyone get hurt because of me. Itachi nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. I see. What did you want to see me about? Naruko asked. Akatsuki, Itachi said, holding up a large book. He tossed it gently to her. Naruko caught it, flipped through its pages, and carefully sealed it into a scroll. Is that everything? She asked, but Itachi shook his head. I have a gift for you. With a graceful motion, Itachi extended his hand. From it, a flock of black crows flew out, swirling around Naruko before disappearing harmlessly. She stumbled slightly, then laughed. What was that? She asked, brushing herself off. It's a precaution, a bit of my power, just in case, Itachi explained. I hope you won't need to use it, but if you do, you'll be ready. Naruko bowed slightly. Thank you, Itachi-san. She smiled warmly, remembering his old Anbu codename. Itachi's eyes widened in surprise. You remember, you're welcome, Naruko-kun. But I must leave now, goodbye. With that, he vanished. Naruko watched silently, sensing the weight behind his farewell. Present. These three ordered Itachi Uchiha to carry out the clan massacre. They may have had reasons, but there were far better ways than hurting so many people, Naruko said, pointing at Danzo and the two elders. And that's not all Danzo has done. Where is your proof? Danzo demanded, narrowing his single eye. Naruko placed a gentle hand on Konan's shoulder. This is Konan, friend of Yahiko and Nagato. Surely you remember her, Danzo? Danzo began to sweat. I have never seen her before. Naruko smiled slightly. Then perhaps this will help. You delayed my return, Danzo. Because of that delay, Pain was free to act as he pleased. Many were put in danger. You've always hungered for power, and your actions have caused needless suffering. This is the proof. She handed a crystal ball to Fukasaku, who held it tightly with his tiny hands. Jiraiya-chan once told me about the secret seals in the Hokage's office, she continued. They record events when the Hokage is away. The scroll contains the names of active summoner toads in Myobakuzen. Those names being erased, that's how we know what happened when Pain attacked. Homura and Koharu exchanged glances, then looked at the fire daimyo. It seems Naruko-kun's return was delayed intentionally. That explains much. Naruko turned back to Danzo. But first, you must answer for your actions. Danzo smirked, confident. You think I'll simply surrender? Two figures appeared at his side, but Naruko didn't hesitate. She raised her hands, and a gentle but powerful wind surged forward in a spiraling arc, sending the two figures tumbling harmlessly into the open space of the village, where they landed softly, unharmed but unable to interfere. I apologize for the disruption, Daimyo-sama, Naruko said, smiling politely. But the peace of Konoha must be maintained. 2 loyal Onbu stepped forward to escort the elders safely away. Naruko then turned to Shikaku. Ensure the villagers and shinobi are out of harm's way. Keep Daimyo-sama safe. Shikaku nodded, and loyal shinobi appeared to guide everyone to safety. Naruko looked at Kakashi. Inform my friends of everything, and tell them to stay out of trouble unless necessary. Kakashi gave a knowing nod. Finally, she addressed Konan. I need you as my backup. You could say this is a trial partnership. Konan smiled and nodded. Naruko turned back to Danzo, her eyes filled with calm determination. Your actions have caused too much suffering. It ends today. Konoha Crater. Naruko leapt gracefully over the wall, followed closely by Konan, and began walking toward Danzo, who was standing tall near the edge of the massive crater. As she looked around, she noticed every villager had gathered in a wide circle, peering down at the enormous pit to witness the unfolding events. Sideline. What is Naruko doing now? Tenten asked, a little exasperated at the beginning of what looked like another confrontation. Suddenly, Kakashi appeared beside them and began explaining what had happened in the council chambers, how Danzo and Hanzo had both confronted Nagato, leading to the creation of Akatsuki, and how Naruko had been delayed from arriving sooner. He carefully left out the Uchiha massacre, knowing it was too sensitive for the crowd. But everyone understood one thing clearly: Danzo was a traitor, and Naruko was about to face him bravely. Is she ready for this? Ino asked, her eyes filled with worry. I'm not sure. But Konan is with her, so she should be safe, Kakashi said, his trust in Konan unshakable. How do we know we can trust her? Shino asked skeptically. Kakashi glanced around at the others. Naruko trusts her, and that's all I need to know, he replied. Everyone nodded in understanding and turned their gaze back to the crater. The villagers whispered in excitement. They had never been able to watch their hero face a villain up close before, and now, knowing that Naruko was confronting a traitor, their hearts were filled with hope and anticipation. Battlefield. Why don't you just give up now, Danzo? Naruko asked calmly, though she knew this would not be an easy confrontation. Ha! You think I would give up after everything I've done? You are just like that fool of a father of yours and the Sandaime, Danzo sneered. Naruko smiled faintly, almost amused. You say I'm like my father? Then yes, I am proud of it. My father fought for his home. He gave everything so we could all live and prosper. The Sandaime protected Konoha for many years. And what have you done? Some experiments and tricks? You're nothing but a shadow-chasing power. Danzo's frown deepened. Everything I have done was to ensure the survival of Konoha, he said firmly, convinced of his own actions. No. Everything you have done caused Akatsuki, this invasion, all the suffering. You say it was for Konoha, but it was for you, for power, for a title. The Shadaime and Nidaime entrusted Konoha to us, to protect it and help it grow into something wonderful. And you? You dishonor their memory with every selfish choice you make. Naruko's voice rang loud across the crater, filled with passion and justice. The title of Hokage is earned. There are no shortcuts. Using fear to rule. It's not leadership. It's weakness. Sideline. Wow. I've never seen her so determined, Anko whispered, a shiver running down her spine at Naruko's fierce loyalty. It's because of how much she loves Konoha, Inoiki said quietly. And because of what the title of Hokage truly means, Kakashi added, setting aside his book to watch closely. What do you mean? Lee asked, curious. The Hokage is someone who protects and inspires, not rules with fear, Sakura explained, having joined the sideline to watch the crowd. Well. Remind me never to make her angry, Ino said nervously, sensing the incredible strength of Naruko's heart. Battlefield. Enough talk, Uzumaki, Danzo shouted, moving his hands in rapid patterns that made the air shimmer. Naruko's eyes widened in surprise. She had trained for moments like this, but the speed was impressive. Futon, Shinkigyoku. Wind release, vacuum sphere, 5 swirling balls of wind shot toward her, spinning like mini tornadoes. Naruko danced lightly across the battlefield, her feet barely touching the ground. Using her swift movements, she weaved between the spinning orbs, giggling as they smashed into the dirt and sent harmless clouds of dust swirling up. Landing gracefully past the craters, she suddenly vanished and appeared right in front of Danzo. Ikotsu. Single bone, she called, her fist connecting with a harmless gust that knocked a little dust up into the air around him. Danzo stumbled slightly, more from surprise than anything else. Naruko's amber eyes sparkled with determination. Danzo grinned, his eyes narrowing. "You can't hope to outsmart me," he said. Naruko tilted her head, curious, noticing how calm he remained even as the whirlwind of her wind technique swirled around him. With a determined grin, she formed a spinning ball of chakra in her hand. "Rasengan," she shouted, sending the glowing sphere spinning toward Danzo. The wind around it swirled into a miniature vortex, but just as the jutsu approached, a playful force pushed it aside. Danzo was still unharmed, though the ground around him sparkled faintly from the chakra. Naruko blinked in surprise. "What's going on?" "He's untouchable," she thought, frowning in determination. Seeing her friend struggle, Konan flew into action. Her legs transformed into delicate paper wings that flapped gracefully, carrying her high above the battlefield. Thousands of paper shuriken began to swirl in the air, forming a sparkling dance around Danzo. He moved calmly, and each shuriken harmlessly passed through him as if he were a gentle breeze. "How can he do that?" Naruko whispered. Both she and Konan realized that Danzo wasn't trying to hurt them, he was simply untouchable, like a magical illusion of safety. Dash. Sideline. "Is he invincible?" Kiba asked, eyes wide with wonder. "I didn't see anything strange happen," Kakashi said, his Sharingan eye observing every movement. Yamato tilted his head, equally baffled. "He seems untouchable, but I can't sense any tricks or illusions." Kurenai, holding her 3-month-old son in her arms, smiled gently. Naruko had returned to the village recently after training far away, but the child had not yet been in any danger. She felt a warm sense of relief watching Naruko focus, hoping the young girl could figure out Danzo's secret before she grew too tired. Guy, standing nearby, nodded seriously. "All we can do is trust her to find a way." Dash. Battlefield. Naruko tapped into her Sennin-moto energy, which shimmered around her in a golden glow. Jumping high above the Hokage mountain, she formed her hands into the familiar seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clone technique. A single clone appeared beside her, smiling with the same determined glint in her eyes. Together, they charged a glowing Rasengan in her hand, which began to shimmer with swirling futon energy. The wind around it danced like a miniature tornado, cutting through the air and filling the battlefield with sparkling gusts. Danzo looked up, his eyes widening slightly. "Is that the next stage of the Rasengan?" Naruko giggled, tilting her head. "It's one of them," she said, winking. She wasn't angry or aggressive, she just wanted to test her skills, to see if she could understand this mysterious, untouchable man. Dash. Sideline. "There's no way Danzo could avoid that," Ino exclaimed, watching the miniature tornado spin with sparkling energy. Shikamaru folded his arms, eyes thoughtful. "We can only hope he doesn't. If he remains untouched, she'll need all her wits to figure out what's happening." Naruko stood tall, determination shining from her eyes. The battle wasn't about hurting anyone, it was about understanding, learning, and seeing just how far her skills could go. The wind swirled around her, playful and free, as if cheering her on. And in that moment, everyone watching could feel it, this was a test of courage, cleverness, and heart. Battlefield. It was at that moment Naruko's clone gently grabbed her and twirled her around before propelling her toward Danzo. As she floated through the air, she shouted, "Futon, Rasen Shuriken." Wind release, spiraling shuriken. A shimmering ball of wind and sparkling chakra spun out from her hand, soaring gracefully toward Danzo, who stood calmly, almost as if she were performing a trick for him. Danzo frowned and thought, she threw it. "I suppose I'll have to use Izanagi again." When the spinning orb of chakra landed, it exploded into a dazzling dome of sparkling wind and light. The dome twirled around, lifting leaves, dust, and small stones into a swirling dance before it shrank inward and popped, showering the battlefield with harmless glittering sparks. When the shimmer cleared, Danzo was standing unharmed in the center. "It's no use, Naruko," he said in a measured tone. "Even with all your abilities, you cannot outmatch me here. Surrender, and I will not punish you." Naruko blinked in surprise. She had expected more of a reaction, but instead, Danzo seemed calm. Then, tapping into her sage mode, she noticed tiny distortions in the air whenever she tried to land a strike. A closer look revealed 4 small, dormant eyes on his arm. "I see it, every time I land a move, one of those eyes closes. That must be how he escapes tricky situations. 4 down, 7 more to figure out, let's see if I can solve this puzzle." Danzo's expression remained composed, but inside he worried slightly. If she's figured out my trick, I must be cautious. She could outsmart me. Sideline. Imagine having such a technique, Kakashi said in quiet admiration. Yes, but it's tricky and can be risky to use, Neji added, glad that with his Byakugan, such complications didn't usually arise. So Naruko has discovered its secret. With her clever strategies and abundant energy, she could keep this challenge going for a while, Hinata said, hope shining in her eyes. We can only hope she doesn't get tired, Shino remarked, noting Danzo's cunning. Battlefield. Naruko realized she only had to outsmart him 7 more times to master the challenge. I'll need to pace my energy carefully. She turned to Konan, her friend and ally. Konan, I could use a little wind assistance, she said. Konan nodded, landing beside her, and together, they performed a beautiful sequence of hand signs. Kaden, Dienden. Fire release, big flame burst, Naruko released a stream of sparkling fire, spreading warmth across the land. Konan followed with, Futon, Atsugai. Wind release, pressure dance, sending a playful, swirling wind that lifted Naruko's flames into a dazzling display. The combined magic of fire and wind spun around Danzo harmlessly, who used his own subtle trick to vanish and reappear behind her. Before he could reach her, Naruko's reflexes caught him, and she twirled her new, elegant sword in a graceful arc. The sword glimmered, a gentle bronze guard shaped like a star with a light blue hilt. She blocked his approach with a confident smile. Are you all right, Konan? Naruko asked, concern softening her voice. I'm fine. I slipped up a little, Konan replied with a small laugh. Naruko grinned. Don't worry about it. Let's get back to the challenge. She replaced her sword in its sheath and faced Danzo, determination shining in her eyes. Danzo's eyes flickered toward her, curious at her unwavering courage. Will you really protect your friends instead of showing your full potential? He asked, testing her resolve. Something inside Naruko clicked. Her concern for her friends unlocked a hidden power within her. Silvery chakra began to glow around her, her eyes shifting into a stunning ripple-like pattern with a soft purple hue. She marveled at the silver energy swirling at her fingertips. Silver chakra. It's new, and it feels amazing. Danzo stepped back in surprise. Impossible. You shouldn't have those eyes. Maybe not, Naruko replied with a smile. But I do. And it's a gift from a friend. With a graceful leap and a gentle slam of her fist onto the ground, the earth around her shimmered and lifted, sparkling stones and leaves floating into the air in a whirl of energy. Holding her hands out, she whispered, Shinra Tensei. Almighty push, and the stones danced toward Danzo like a beautiful, harmless whirlwind. He gracefully dodged, impressed by her control and skill. The battlefield glimmered with swirling light, wind, and silver sparks, turning the fight into a magical display of cleverness, friendship, and discovery. Naruko laughed, her spirit bright, knowing that no matter the challenge, she could rise with courage, kindness, and imagination. Sideline. How does Naruko have those eyes? Ino asked, her eyes widening as she stared at Naruko's rippled, radiant gaze. Kakashi glanced at her and sighed. She agreed to have them transplanted into her own eyes. Noticing the alarmed looks forming, he raised a hand to calm everyone. Her unique healing managed to reform her original blue eyes. But within them now is the Rinnegan, connected to her chakra, body, and even mind. She's still Naruko, don't worry, only now she's stronger than ever. Sakura smiled at Naruko's new eyes. You've really come so far, Naruko, she said softly, feeling inspired herself to grow stronger to keep up. An interesting strategy, Shikamaru remarked with a nod, deliberately ignoring the reason for her new eyes for the moment. How so? Huji asked. Kakashi explained, by kicking up the rocks, she blocks Danzo's view, allowing her to surprise him with jutsu. It's mostly about clever timing and surprise. Kiba grinned as Akamaru barked in agreement. She's picking through all that Sharingan on that old arm like a pro. Battlefield. And that's 6, just 5 left, Naruko said playfully, watching Danzo scowl. Don't be so arrogant, girl, I still have a few tricks up my sleeve, Danzo said with a smirk. You do know you won't leave this village unharmed? Naruko asked confidently. I am the only one who can protect this village. I will do whatever it takes to achieve peace, even if I fall, others like me will continue the work. I am not doing this for myself, but for the world, Danzo declared. No. The way you treat life, someone like you could never bring true peace. You'd only spread fear, twisting the ideals of those who truly cared for this village. You may call the past Hokage's ideals foolish, but it's those same ideals that made our home strong. That's why we rise again and again. I don't fear death. If I must face it to protect everyone, then I'll do so gladly. Naruko's voice rang clear and strong. The civilians, who had once feared her, now looked on with awe and respect. Sideline. He sounded just like a Hokage, Kurenai whispered, adjusting her child in her arms. It is her life's goal, Kakashi said simply. Who knows, maybe she will achieve it, Yamato added as he arrived, having helped secure the daimyo from danger. With the daimyo. Shikaku and the Anbu had moved the daimyo to a safe spot near Hokage Mountain, close enough to witness the battle. Throughout it all, they were in awe of Naruko's strength and courage. Her words and actions inspired them. It was clear she would be a Hokage worthy of the title someday. The daimyo himself nodded in approval. I think I've found the perfect candidate for Hokage, he mused. Shikaku smiled quietly, pleased to see Naruko's determination recognized. Battlefield. Danzo felt a grudging respect for her, but he remained firm in his methods. I see, then I expect a worthy challenge. He moved through hand seals that Naruko recognized thanks to her studies with Nagato, but Danzo's attack surprised her. Wood release, great forest technique. A towering tree shot from his arm toward Naruko. She jumped back, but before it could trap her, sheets of paper flew through the air, tearing it apart. Konan landed beside Naruko, steadying her. Impossible, you shouldn't have that ability, you're not even a senju, Naruko said, rubbing her chest. That's right. But there are other ways to gain it, Danzo said with a smirk. Naruko's eyes widened in realization, then narrowed in determination. You, how could you? She cried. Don't you have any morals? It was necessary to bring peace to this world, Danzo replied calmly. You call using people and desecrating graves the way to peace? The crowd gasped, shocked by the revelation of his deeds. Sideline. What does she mean by desecrating graves? Ino asked. Danzo took the Shodime's bloodline to gain the Makuten ability, Yamato explained. It's rare, but it's possible. Some people, like Orochimaru, experimented on children to achieve such power. Naruko isn't one to let such things pass unnoticed. Battlefield. You wouldn't understand. You haven't seen the evils of this world, Danzo said. Naruko's jaw tightened. Enough talk. The more I hear, the more I feel disgusted by your choices. She flipped through hand seals, calling forth a jutsu she had recently mastered. Ice release, Black Dragon Blizzard. A magnificent black dragon soared into the sky, descending to cover the battlefield in ice. Danzo lunged, but Naruko twisted and kicked him back, smiling confidently. That's 7. She focused again, gathering energy for a final attack. Crystal, giant hexagonal shuriken. A shimmering crystal snowflake formed, spinning with immense speed. When it struck, it shattered Danzo's defenses. He vanished before hitting the ground. Even then, Naruko's wounds began to heal, thanks to her unique Sage and Jinchuriki abilities. That healing of yours is quite a nuisance, Danzo muttered, watching her recover almost instantly. Perks of being a Sage and a Jinchuriki, she replied with a small, triumphant smile. Naruko stood tall, her bright eyes glowing with resolve. She wasn't just strong, she was a beacon of hope, kindness, and courage, ready to inspire everyone around her. Danzo then pulled out a kunai and said, Fukunai Kiri. Wind kunai blade. She blew gently on the kunai, and a shining blade appeared, swirling like a silver ribbon, light as a feather. Naruko's hands moved swiftly through a series of hand seals. Suten, Suryudan no Jutsu. Water release, Water Dragon Bullet Technique. From nowhere, a sparkling water dragon leapt into existence, its scales glimmering in the sunlight. With a graceful swoop, it flew straight toward Danzo, spraying shimmering water everywhere. But Danzo moved quickly, appearing behind Naruko in an instant. Everyone gasped. She had barely noticed him, he seemed to vanish and reappear in the blink of an eye. Konan rushed forward, her expression full of worry. Naruko, be careful. She called, but Naruko only shook her head. I can handle this. Don't worry. Her voice was determined, soft yet strong. Naruko stumbled for a moment, feeling the sharp sting of a small wound, and looked down. Something magical began to happen. Snowflakes drifted from the sky, sparkling like tiny stars, and a cool, gentle wind swirled around her. Her sword, Hyarin-Maru, shimmered and dissolved into glimmering ice particles. A majestic, icy blue dragon materialized before her, wings spread wide, its eyes glowing with gentle light. "Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze," the dragon said, her voice echoing like a soft melody. "I am Hyarin-Maru. I am here to help you." Naruko blinked in awe. You can heal me?" she whispered. "Yes," Hyarin-Maru said, blowing a cooling breath over her. "I have shared some of my power with you. You are strong, and I wish to see your courage shine." Warmth spread through Naruko's chest. Her wound healed completely, and she felt a surge of energy and confidence. Opening her eyes, she saw everyone around her frozen in shock, amazed at what had just happened. Danzo stepped back, confused. How are you not hurt?" Naruko smiled softly, gripping the handle of Hyarin-Maru. "Sometimes," she said, "help comes from friends you can't see. Or from the magic you carry inside yourself." The wind picked up around her, carrying tiny snowflakes that twinkled in the sunlight. "I've learned many things on my journey," she said, lifting her hand toward the sky. Clouds gathered, sparkling with tiny streaks of lightning. "I have trained my water, wind, and lightning abilities. Together, they can bring balance and protection to those I care about." Danzo's eyes widened. Why hide such strength? Naruko looked at him with calm resolve. Because real strength isn't just about power. It's about protecting the people you love and using your abilities wisely. That's what makes someone truly strong. As she spoke, Hyarin-Maru's icy wings stretched wide, reflecting the sunlight in a dazzling display. Naruko stood tall, her heart full of courage and hope. Around her, the battlefield seemed to calm, the snow gently falling, as if the world itself was taking a breath. Konan approached, a smile breaking across her face. "That's my friend," she said softly, "proud. Strong, kind, and brave." Naruko nodded, feeling stronger than ever, ready to face any challenge with courage, heart, and a little bit of magic at her side. Flashback. A 14-year-old Naruko Uzumaki stared ahead at a large bandit camp that seemed to stretch on forever. Dozens of tents and small buildings were scattered across the clearing, and she knew these bandits had caused havoc in nearby villages. They had stolen precious items, frightened villagers, and even taken people away from their homes. Naruko's heart ached thinking of the families who had suffered, and a determined fire sparked in her chest. She wouldn't let anyone else hurt innocent people if she could stop it. Quietly, she sent a few of her shadow clones into the camp. Each clone moved carefully, rescuing the prisoners while the bandits were distracted or asleep. Moments later, a clone returned, nodding. All the prisoners were safe. Naruko took a deep breath and focused, ready to confront the chaos that remained. She closed her eyes and gathered Raiten chakra into her hand, which sparked and shimmered like a miniature lightning storm. Opening her eyes, she flung her hand skyward. The lightning shot up and seemed to hang in the night sky, drawing the clouds together. They swirled above the camp, and with each second, the storm grew brighter, echoing with soft rumbles of thunder. The bandits, noticing the unusual sky, ran from their tents to look up. "What is that?" one asked, bewildered. "Lightning?" another whispered nervously. "Where are the prisoners?" a third cried. Naruko shook her head, almost smiling. "The last thing you'll see is the light," she whispered. Then she brought her hand down in a swift motion and unleashed the storm she had been preparing. A brilliant flash filled the clearing, and the bandits froze in awe. The lightning swirled around, weaving between the tents and buildings, and in an instant, the camp was no more. Smoke rose gently from the ground, leaving behind only a crater where chaos had once thrived. Naruko exhaled, eyes softening as she turned away, hoping never to see such cruelty again. Present. Snapping back to the present, Naruko stood firm, her hand extended toward Danzo. "Raiten, Soryochi." "Lightning release, Skyfall," she called, sending a brilliant strike that illuminated the crater around them. The flash of light danced across the rocks and dust, forcing her to use quick movements to stay safe. Even in the chaos, Naruko's heart stayed calm. She remembered the times she had learned to protect people, the lessons of resilience and courage that shaped her. This wasn't about defeating someone, it was about keeping her village safe and showing that true strength comes from protecting others. Danzo struggled against her relentless power, sending a compressed wind attack toward her. But Naruko calmly lifted her hand, using her control over gravity to redirect it safely. She soared into the air, chakra swirling into a bright silver ball in her hand. "Rikudo Rasengan," she called, charging down toward Danzo. The impact sent a shockwave across the ground, shaking the rocks and scattering dust. Even as Danzo tried to fight back, Naruko stayed focused, her movements precise and her spirit strong. Finally, with a brilliant combination of lightning and chakra, she launched her finishing move. The Rasengan spiraled around Danzo, safely subduing him without causing harm to anyone nearby. As the dust settled, Naruko landed gracefully, breathing steadily. She looked at Danzo, now unable to continue his fight, and smiled softly. "It's over," she said gently. "You don't have to hurt anyone anymore." The villagers and fellow shinobi, watching from a distance, cheered for her. But Naruko didn't think of herself as a hero. She thought of the people she had saved, the smiles she had protected, and the promise she had kept to be someone who would always stand up for what was right. With that, she turned and walked away from the crater, calm and determined, ready to face whatever challenges came next, but always with her heart full of hope. Outside the village. About 10 miles away, a large plant-like creature slowly emerged from the ground. To think pain would be defeated, the white side of Zetsu murmured. The two halves had been observing Konoha for the past 2 days ever since Pain's defeat. Danzo was also gone. Along with that Sharingan of his, the black side added quietly. "Tobi won't be pleased with this," Zetsu said as they faded back into the tree, leaving only a rustle in the leaves behind. Council room. A few hours later. Inside the council room, all the clan heads and daimyo gathered around the long, polished table. Their discussion today was important: who would become the next Hokage? Many secretly hoped for Naruko to take the position, but politics could always be unpredictable. It had been a few hours since Naruko had confronted Danzo, and during that time, she had been resting and recovering under the care of Sakura Haruno. Now, Naruko, Kakashi, and Konan entered the council room, summoned to discuss the future of the village. "Good, you're here. We have much to discuss," Hiashi said warmly. Even he admitted that Naruko had shown extraordinary strength and leadership. "What did you need us for?" Kakashi asked, unusually serious and without her usual book. "We have called you here to discuss the position of the new Hokage," Shibi began. The fire daimyo leaned forward with a bright smile. "We, as a council, would like to offer you, Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze, the position you so rightfully deserve." Naruko blinked in surprise. What? "You're the best choice for Hokage, pup," Sume said with a teasing grin. She had known how long Naruko had dreamed of this. "You have the power for the position," Choza commented kindly. "And the heritage, no one will overlook you," Inoiki added. "Not to mention that the villagers adore you," Shikaku said, his voice soft with admiration. "You are a student of Jiraiya-sama and Kakashi Hatake, you've faced great dangers bravely, and you've even helped change the hearts of those who threaten the village. Most importantly, you've helped uncover corruption within our walls." Naruko let out a small sigh and sat in an empty chair, thinking over the weight of what they were offering. "What about Tsunade?" she asked quietly. The fire daimyo waved his fan reassuringly. "Even if she recovers, this position is yours. After seeing your courage, your skill, and your recent feats, we all know you are the one ready to lead." Naruko nodded, thinking of the Rinnegan she could now control. "I understand. I have the strength, but I still have much to learn. I need to master my jutsu and understand the Rinnegan fully. And I need to figure out a way to reach higher Rinmaru," she added, glancing at the sword at her side. "Is it really wise to give such responsibility to someone so young?" one advisor whispered nervously. "Land of Wind has done the same in Sunagakur," the fire daimyo replied calmly. "Naruko is more than ready, her skills, leadership, and wisdom are already extraordinary for her age." Naruko thought for a moment. This was her dream, her chance to protect everyone she loved. She remembered all who had guided her: Yahiko, Nagato, Asuma-sensei, Uro-sennin, and even Tsunade. This was not just her path, it was the path of hope for everyone in Konoha. With a small, determined sigh, she stood and looked at the fire daimyo. "I have one request. Please announce my succession in 5 days. I have unfinished business to handle before then." Kakashi and Konan smiled, proud of their friend, as the fire daimyo nodded. "It shall be as you wish. In 5 days, you will officially become Hokage of Konohagakure." As Naruko prepared to leave, Shikaku spoke up. "Hokage-sama, with reconstruction and repairs needed, your authorization is required for emergency provisions and construction." Naruko thought quickly. "A friend from Nami no Kuni runs a construction company, send for them. Supplies from Haru no Kuni should be easy to obtain. Just mention my name, and they will help. The fire daimyo watched her go with a satisfied smile. A great Hokage indeed, he said. Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. I hope you enjoyed the content and found it entertaining or helpful. Your support means the world to me, and it truly motivates me to keep creating more videos for you. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Every view, every comment, and every subscription helps our community grow and inspires me to bring you even better content in the future. Thank you once again for being a part of this journey. Your encouragement keeps this channel alive and thriving. Warm regards. 6 Path Weeb.